Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul. Be still and know my God is here. Be still, my soul. Be still, my soul. Be still and know my God is here. All I need to know is this: you are a good God, the maker of heaven calls me is. You are a good God, and your heart beats in my chest. You are a good God, all that I have to do is rest. You are a good God. I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. My God is here. He will make a way. He will make a way. He will make a way. My God is here. All I need to know is this: you are a good God. The maker of heaven calls me his. You are a good God, and your heart beats in my chest. You are a good God, all that I have to do is rest. You are a good God. You give me your eyes, you give me your heart. Your spirit flows through my veins. You give me your eyes, you give me your heart. Your spirit flows through my veins. You give me your eyes, you give me your heart. Your spirit flows through my veins. You give me your eyes, you give me your heart. Your spirit flows through my veins. Oh, you give me your eyes, you give me your heart. You had a plan right from the start. I know who I am, 'cause I know who you are. You are a good God. All that I need to know is this: the maker of heaven calls me his. All that I need to know is this: you are a good God. The maker of heaven calls me his. You are a good God, and your heart beats in my chest. You are a good God, all that I have to do is rest. You are a good God. 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 How great this love, Oh, it's moving all my mountains. This perfect love is casting out my fear. How great this love. Oh, it welcomes me like family, and everywhere I go, it meets me there. He is good, and He is God. What I earn is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. How great this love. Oh, it's faithful through my failures. This trusted love is with me to the end. How great this love. Oh, it's closer than a brother. This is love. He died so I could live. He is good, and He is God. What I earn is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. He is good, and He is God. What I earn is not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve is not what I find. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. What more could I say about Him? My God is love. What more could I say about Him? My God is love.
Hi everyone! You probably are well aware that we are in the first weeks of May. And in addition to Mother's Day and Memorial Day and Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and graduations and spring sports and I want to let you know of a few things happening in and around the Crosspointe community. On May 17th, there's actually two things going on. First, there's a Habitat for Humanity Build Day in Raleigh. So if you're 16 or older, you can register online to help build homes in a Habitat neighborhood with other people from across the Triangle, including our Interfaith Coalition. We find this really important, not only because of our long-standing partnership with Habitat and all the great work they do, but because of our need for affordable housing in our area. And don't worry, you don't have to have any construction experience or know how to hold a hammer. You don't even have to know what a hammer is. The team will teach you everything you need to know. And this is the first of several days coming up where you can get involved with Habitat. You can find the link to register and to sign up at crosspoint.org on our main page. And also on May 17th, we'll be taking our second Crosspointe Ministries Faith and Justice trip. A few weeks ago, we went to the International Civil Rights Museum in Greensboro, and this month we'll be a little closer to home in Durham at the historic Staggsville Museum. It was once one of the largest plantations in North Carolina, and it's now an official site of conscious location that works to inspire new understandings of the history of slavery, especially in our area. We will meet at the site of the tour, then we'll come back to Crosspointe for lunch and debrief. The tour is appropriate for ages 12 and up, but of course, you know your kid better than we do, so be sure to check out the website if you plan to sign up with your child. You can register at crosspoint.org/events. And if you're not able to attend in person, we invite you to check out their website to learn a little bit more about the site and its history. Also in May is National Foster Care Month. And throughout the month, our Crosspointe Kids Point ministry will be collecting supplies for foster care first night bags. Children entering foster care, they often leave their homes without anything of their own as they enter the homes of strangers who'll be their guardians for a while. And having something of their own, even something small, can make a huge difference in providing support in these really traumatic situations. So Crosspointe Kids Point is collecting supplies to fill backpacks and duffel bags with things like pajamas, books, journals, blankets, a whole lot more. Then they're going to work together to pack those bags. So if you want to participate in making a donation so that they can do this, you can find out more and sign up to provide supplies at crosspoint.org, again on our main page. A couple of other things happening. Our Prime Timers, which is our 55 plus group, they'll be hosting a potluck gathering after the service on May 18th. You can find out about that at crosspoint.org/events. Our summer dinner clubs, those group signups will also be opening up soon, and those information will be in the e-news and online. And if you'd like to know more about how to partner with Crosspointe financially, you can go to crosspoint.org/contribute. There's so much happening Crosspointe, and we're really grateful for you. Happy May.
So did you hear about the climber on Mount Fuji last week? This 27-year-old Chinese student, he's living in Japan, and he makes an emergency call on the 22nd, April 22nd, and he's in bad shape. He has to be airlifted. He's got symptoms of altitude sickness and hypoxia. He's, oxygen starved. The following Saturday, he went back to the mountain and climbed again, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, to get his cell phone and some other stuff. And it all happened again. Another climber found him unable to move, sick for the second time, had to be airlifted for the second time. It's comical because it didn't happen to me. I don't know what he was thinking. I've only read one article about it. I haven't heard him quoted. I'm sure more will come out, but I had a suspicion about this that I thought would be interesting for my purposes today. So aside from maybe not thinking straight because of the oxygen deprivation, or there's something really incriminating on that phone, my suspicion is that this is possible. He had already gone through the bad of it, and so was assured that the worst case scenario was totally get throughable. And so he just went back up again. In his mind, like, what's the worst that can happen? Other than death, what happened? And I got through that, so I'm going to go back up and get my phone. In my messages over the years, I quote a particular passage because I do it all the time. It's just really helpful for me. I know it is for a lot of other people to use as sort of a reminder of what kind of person I'm going to be when I'm operating by the way of the Spirit. So it's really popular. It's entitled The Fruit of the Spirit. It's where Paul tells his friends in Galatia that it's going to be really obvious when people are just living out of raw appetite and selfishness, when they've sort of given up on the bigger picture. And then he lists a bunch of behaviors. And maybe it's even a little judgy. There's all kinds of reasons why people might do some of the things that he's labeling, but It's a helpful list. And then right after that, he uses the word fruit to describe the results, the evidence that somebody is trying to live more aware and radiantly and alive to the Spirit. He says, by contrast to the first list, the fruit, the produce, the results of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-mastery. There is no law against such things. Now, each of these words is a meditation. I've done so for years. I know many of you have done similar. And I think it's really important that after those 9 words, he adds, there is no law against such things. It's as if to say, I could keep going with this list. We could continue getting at what your life will look like in a bunch more different ways, what it's going to look like when you're really living the way you were made to live. But I only recently realized something. The word he doesn't use, where he talks about it a lot in other places, hope. And so maybe the word hope falls under the such things clause at the end. But it's a pretty big idea for Paul and for his audience and for us. It seems like it would have been up there with love and peace and joy and those kinds of things. You may be familiar with one of the places that he really drills down on the idea. It's another passage where he's encouraging his fellow Jesus people in Rome. They're suffering. It's going bad. They're losing sight of the bigger picture like you do when you're suffering. And he says, we also boast in our afflictions, knowing that affliction produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. So Paul says, we boast like it's a taunt. And you have to remember, Paul's been through unimaginable hardship, so he knows what he's talking about. He's not coming out of left field here talking about other people's suffering without knowing what he's talking about. He says, we boast, we brag, and taunt hardship. We do. Our afflictions, our endurance, our character, or in other words, our reputation, it amounts to our collective hope, our being collectively identified by hope. So it makes us reflect. It's almost as if he didn't put hope on the fruit of the Spirit list because hope is further back. Like hope's the motivator, the engine, so that things like love and joy, the things that people can actually measure and be specific and naming what they're experiencing, so that those things can be found. Hope's behind it. Hope's the rationale behind all that, daring to produce love in a love-strained world, to produce peace in a world that might not reward that right away. It's tense and antagonistic. Forgiveness in a bitter and begrudging world, to produce gladness in a cynical world, or gentleness in a reckless and inconsiderate world, to produce a sense of self-mastery in a world that will reward you for being impulsive and appetite-driven. Because what we're saying is, despite appearances sometimes, despite how it seems like only the naive would put any effort into this, we have learned collectively that it's worth it. And that living as though it's worth it, despite appearances, that's what we're calling hope. That's why we love and offer peace and kindness and gentleness. And I have not had an easy time with that. I know that's a totally normal human thing to say, that I have gone through difficulties with hope, but as a professional church guy who gets up in front of people and talks about these ideas, it has often been a problem. I did a message on hope 12 years ago and remember feeling so good about it. I shared how the etymology of the word hope is hop. It gives you the idea of, it's rooted in this picture of continuing to move. Tons of people told me it was a huge moment for them. It was a huge moment for me. But then it wasn't long after that, circumstances being what they were, that I started to see that no matter how I or other people hopped or moved, things just didn't go well. And it started to feel naive. And then after that, I heard somebody do a message on hope. And as I'm listening to them, I realized I don't have much use for what you're describing. This person kept talking about hope as though it was a product on the shelf you can use anytime you want to. And then, here's a Bible quote that proves it. And, you can be encouraged by it. And here's a story from the Bible and all that. And it sort of reinforced my suspicion that hope was this passive thing. That's the thing that people apply when they don't have any control and they don't want to apply themselves or inconvenience themselves to get a better result. So they just say hope, like, I hope it rains. Because what control do you have over that? That's a wish. And I was noticing there's a lot of people wishing and then putting Jesus' name on it. And then I heard an activist say, hope sucks. And he said it as a positive, as a way of reinforcing the same point, that it's wishing. It's people who keep talking about hope because they don't want to make any changes or take any actions. So it's this passive thing. And that sort of clenched it for me. I don't think I have any use for hope, which is going to be problematic because this seems to be a really important thing. And I'm giving you this vague chronology because I know many of you have had a similar experience, especially in connection to faith, that hope is this drum other people keep banging. And you're trying, but you're not feeling it, especially at church, where we insist that things will be better just because it'll be later, or things will be better, Bible quote, Bible quote, Bible quote. And then you get in your car in the parking lot and you're like, I don't know, man. So let me say here, in the last couple of years, I have learned something. And as recently as this year, it has broken open inside of me in a way where like all these lights are going on in a previously very dark room. And I don't think there's any going back. I've got a lot to learn, but there's just no going back. I think it's finally starting to make sense to my spirit. After 25 years of marriage, my wife and I separated last summer. And while I've said that plenty to people in conversation over these last several months, that's the first time I've ever said that into a microphone or a camera. And it represents one of the most painful things either of us have ever experienced. And many of you have been through that, or you know somebody that has, and so I don't need to tell you 0 stars. And neither do I probably need to tell some of you that when your life and your expectations and your sense of yourself shifts on that level, one of the things that seems incredibly ridiculous to entertain or talk about at first is hope. You know it's a concept that's meaningful to other people, but not for you. When you're in it, it doesn't feel real, and it doesn't feel accessible if it is. In fact, there's even part of you that just doesn't want to hear about it. I don't even want it. And sort of the way like somebody's trying to give you an attaboy, pat you on the back, and you have a sunburn. I know what you're intending, but even that hurts. There are all kinds of pains and all kinds of measures. They're all legitimate, personal, national, global. All of it can make hoping feel like a really, really impossible thing. When you're grieving, when you are scared, when you are feeling out of control, when you're in sustained anger, the valley of the shadow of death seems like not a valley at all. That's like the full range of possibilities, which isn't much of a range at all. Because when you're in a dark room, you don't know which way you're supposed to walk. It doesn't matter which way you turn your head. Everything looks the same in a dark room. You don't know how far away things are, if you're going to stub your toe or crack your shin. So should I move at all? How many steps, how many miles or years away is the exit from this thing? And so one of the things you learn in psychology and studying even neurology is that traumatic events, which can be uppercase T trauma or a bunch of lowercase t traumas, trauma is trauma, or even sustained stress or toxic stress, one of the things that you learn is that it doesn't just affect your mood. It's quite literally changing the way that you process information, quite literally changing the structure of parts of your brain. It changes your chemistry. It changes the performance of your neurotransmitters to the point where all these hormones that we have to have, and there's dozens of them, but endorphins and oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine, all the things that make you feel good and connected and aware of the big picture and who you are and all that, they all get washed out degree by degree by degree by adrenaline and norepinephrine and cortisol. These are hormones that are associated with threat, fight or flight, survival. And you can't have both. And so after a while, our brain starts to retune itself no longer to the greater picture and our highest self, but it fixates on problems and pain and how to avoid that now. And you lose the bigger picture, and it's just this and how bad stuff keeps trying to happen. Now, what does that have to do with hope? Well, a lack of hope isn't just because you've thought about the angles or you did a study of the Bible and decided it's not for you. It's not an intellectual thing for the vast majority of us. A lack of hope is a symptom that stress and fear and pain have wounded our ability to do what God made us to do and be who God made us to be. And if you're an atheist and you want to take the God part out, a lack of hope is evidence that the pain and the wounds and the fear that we have felt in a sustained way has changed our ability to be what we really are. And that's science. That's just a fact. A key sign that you and I are stuck in fight or flight, and it doesn't mean we've got our fists up or that we're literally running, but internally that we're stuck in that survival mode, or being stuck, immobilized by the freeze response, or you go the other way, like I'm not going to fight or flee, I'm just going to hold real still. A key sign that we're stuck there, and one of those survival strategies is that you are having a harder and harder time believing there even is a bigger picture, that things matter beyond this moment, and keeping as comfortable as you can. That's not a character thing. It's not evil. It's not a sin. It's none of that. It's pain and fear, anger, fight or flight has gotten the best of us in this moment. We stop deciding and acting as one who can see and sense all of these individual chapters are going somewhere. All of us are going somewhere together. We stop thinking things like trust and the better story, the inherent goodness of life, even though there's pain and suffering in it here and there. That stops even seeming reasonable. The brain, the body, the thinking, therefore, start to see hope as more and more for fools until we stop thinking that hope exists at all. And then there's a guy up there on stage at church or some guy on TV or something, they start talking about hope. And you can't even listen to it because all you're thinking is, it's not real, at least not for me. And it all feels true because your bodies will feel it. Our worried brains will focus on negatives so acutely that we edit out most of the good stuff, drawing a giant highlighter at the same time across everything that's gone wrong, is going wrong, or will probably go wrong, until it seems really true. There's no hope. Stop talking to me about hope. Not for me. I mean, have you ever spoken to someone who's gotten so hurt they won't hope? You ever listen to how they tell their story or how they describe their circumstances? I'm not asking you to judge them. Have you ever observed how people, I've heard it a million times, and people have heard me do it over these years. This bad thing happened, this bad thing happened, and then of course this bad thing happened because this bad thing always happens to people like me, and then this bad thing will probably happen because that's what has to happen to people who are, have my luck or lack luck like I do. And what did I do to deserve this? That's not, you can be annoyed by that. That's not a character thing. That is a brain that has got all the dials set to problems, pain, and there's nothing else. The valley of the shadow of death. I'm not making fun of it. I'm telling you, I get it. So then Jesus, who allegedly knows everything, walks up in the middle of some cultural and personal and global turmoil, like he did in the first century, and he says, consider the lilies. And you're like, how about first you consider my second check engine light of the month and what's happening to our democracy, or like due process? How about that? It just doesn't feel real. But maybe this is exactly the picture we need to hold on to for a second. We need to get a sense of how we can hope in the face of things that want to erase hope, even from the architecture of our brains. There's a song in the Hebrew scriptures that people came to call Psalm 77, or about right in the middle of your Bible. It's a song of Asaph, and so as soon as you hear it, the lyrics, you're going to be like, that's classic Asaph. This is part of what he sings. He starts the song, I cry aloud to God, and God will hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. Just let yourself imagine that. He's in a dark room and he's just reaching out. My soul refuses to be comforted. When I remember God, I moan. When I meditate, my spirit faints. So there's some context here of where this song is coming from, but suffice it to say, things are bad for Asaph personally, and then at the same time for his community, for his identity. So he says, I'm going to cry out to God. My hand stretched out in a dark room, just a great picture of begging for another hand to take his for reassurance, and no comfort will come. My soul refuses to be comforted. I'm gonna mention God, and then I'm just gonna moan at the idea. This again. You ever been there? Exhausted by trying to meditate, like trying to do the next right thing. Like here we go again, wishing for something other than this stuck, hopeless feeling. No one's listening. All I have is cliches. Then he talks about not being able to sleep and doubting there's any reason to hope at all for the next part of the song. Then he comes to this. It's not a long song. And sorry, I don't know the melody. Will the Lord spurn forever and never again be favorable? Has his steadfast love forever ceased? Are his promises at an end for all time? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he in anger shut up his compassion? Selah. And a lot of people think that word Selah means pause for a second. Let's take stock. Let's take a breath. Consider, because we're about to make a little bit of a turn here. Selah. Then I said, I will appeal to this, to the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. So let's pay attention to what just happened before deciding whether or not you think this is helpful or applicable to your situation. Asaph is a human being and he's low. This is the blues in E minor. But then he says, here's what I'm going to appeal to. Years of the right hand, the proven strength of divine care. He remembers the deeds of the divine, wonders of old. He will ponder all God's work, not just what's going wrong. He says, I'll ponder all God's work, the whole story. And the turn in the song is this. Outside of the immediate dark valley, the lightless room of hopeless, shrunken possibility, Asaph says, wait a minute, what happened for people last time crap got this deep? For me, for us. This pattern happens dozens of times throughout the scriptures. I'm giving you one of literally dozens and dozens of examples where there's doubt, there's despair, there's lament. Things feel like hope is stupid, and then it makes this turn, and there's a response, sometimes with a divine voice that says, remember what happened before, days of old, previous experience, the things that we recall about other times where we found ourselves in the valley of the shadow of death, and it was real and it was awful, just like this is real and this can be really bad, and yet the shadow is proof of the light. I've been here before, and if I haven't, we've been here before. Someone's been here before. Let's remember. Now, importantly, some of you need to hear me say this. I'm not saying that the pain you might be experiencing on a personal and then even like member of the species level, because there's plenty of things going on, can be medicated by taking passages from the Bible and ironing onto the shirt of your context. If that lifts you up and gets you hopping, awesome, do it. Many of us aren't encouraged anymore by it. And that's on us, but by claiming promises made to ancient people in the Bible in different circumstances, it doesn't do for us what it does for other people. And so listen, I want you to pay attention to, if that's you, the principle at work here, because it's still 100% true outside the specific context of a psalm. A lack of hope is a lack of perspective, and there's a reason for that, and we're not bad, we're not doing anything wrong. The world just gets really small. There's not a character judgment in that, not at all. It's the normal, predictable outcome of feeling like it's too painful or dangerous or disappointing to see beyond the constricted frame. But we are not required to pretend hope. We don't pretend hope. The invitation is, whenever we are ready to recognize that we've stopped moving, to dare to edit back in all the stuff that pain and fear has edited out. The whole story, all of it. In our own lives and in the lives of those who have gone before us. For a really silly example, I'm just 1 month into wearing contacts. It's going fine. But the first day, standing in the mirror, going through the steps of trying to get my eye to cooperate and get my eyelashes out of the way to conform while the little contact keeps folding like a see-through taco, I got way too frustrated at about minute 22. I could not pull it off, and I'm so frustrated I can't think straight. And then this thought occurred to me. I had just talked to a mother who said her 9-year-old had just started wearing contacts. So I'm standing in the mirror for about 10 seconds after remembering that she told me this, shaming myself. You moron, a 9-year-old can do this. And then on the heels of that voice, a gentler, wiser internal voice said the exact same thing, but in a different tone. A 9-year-old is doing this. And I know this is comical as anything, but there's a shift here I want you to pay attention to, because I just happened to. I thought, wait a minute, this is gonna happen. There's some precedent here. I just need to reset. Kids do this. I'm just overthinking it. Plenty of people do this. And bam, my very next try, Jesus and Bosch and Lom restored my sight. It's a silly but real little snapshot of how hope can feel a little fragile sometimes, but to continue moving through, and I wasn't in the valley of the shadow of death, I was just in a blurry valley at that moment. remembering the broader story and edit back in all the stuff that our fixation on what's going wrong has edited out. So let me offer this to you in practical little end of message numbered notes, okay? This is for each of us, for ourselves, also for each of us in the spirit of like extra awareness for how hope is something that we are doing together, okay? So here's the first thing. Just remember, you got here. We can find hope with that decision to remember. It's not easy. You might have to go take a walk. You might have to take a drive to dislodge yourself from the everything is awful space that you're in. But what we're doing is saying, hang on. We always find some way through. And it's not fun sometimes, but here I am. Very often, far more often than we may remember, the crappy moment we are in results in very good outcomes. The thing we feared turns out to be better than we expected. The dead-end circumstances result in a ton of new wisdom, new choices that we otherwise could have never gotten to. So remembering your actual personal history, editing back in all of it, putting the good back in, and recalling the simple fact of having gotten to this very moment, despite the hundreds of things that may have happened and gone wrong, to stop and say, wait a minute, I got here. I'm going to get there. I love the quote by the author Matthew Riley here. He said, we didn't come this far just to come this far. I butchered that. Let me try that again. We didn't come this far just to come this far. Okay, so here's another way to think of it. Very, very much the same, but different. So think of this in terms of horizons. It's the same remembering, but it's letting other people help us do it. So the first thing is how I'm doing it. The second thing is how we do it as a community. The church can be this. It can happen in the stands during your kids' soccer practice just as well, though, okay? And it's saying out loud that you're feeling like you're lost in the valley of the shadow of death. Your circumstances have become such that it's like closed in around you. It feels like there's no way out. Your heart is broken. Your mind has gone numb. You've lost your motivation. You're crabby. Whatever your reaction is, the world is moving on without you. Your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling. Finding a way to say that to somebody else that you trust, and then asking them to remind you. You can think of it as they're with you to show you the horizons. So this is when a trusted other, even if they're clumsy about it, have your permission to point to the horizon and say, the one in front of us is where we are headed. Don't stop. The horizon behind us is where we've been. And we got here, you got here, despite everything that's back there. 9-year-olds have been putting in their contacts. People in similar or worse circumstances have also come through this. Better, kinder, wiser, happier, holier. Remember the former things, God's mighty deeds, or at least remember that everything we've gotten through. And let's keep moving toward the horizon in front of us. One step at a time, together, collecting and connecting with others until we get where we're going. And what is currently trying to break me in this moment, or is trying to break you, we're heading to that horizon until this is a horizon. This will be a thing that we look back on and say, look, we did it. And then here's one more. We'll just call it spreadsheets. I'm not talking about real spreadsheets, but you'll see what I'm saying here in a second. It's a really simple principle. Hard to do when you're feeling low, but it's a really simple thing to do. And I'm framing it this way because my friend Tara just told me something she chose to do, and it meant something to me. She said she got some really tough financial news. And so she said, quote, all those building blocks of friends, events, new skills completely vanished, and I was terrified all over again. I was just so very sad and stuck in circling thoughts of how can I afford to live? Am I even going to be able to pay my bills? And after wallowing in my pity party for a bit, I came to the conclusion that this was not, nor would it ever, solve the problem. So I pulled out my computer and opened my beloved Excel. I created a, quote, worst case scenario spreadsheet. I reviewed the list of bills, expenses, I assigned dollar amounts, I researched other streams of income, found cheaper alternatives, eliminated items I could live without, and do you know what happened? I discovered I could do it. She put that part in all caps. I could do it. And I broke down in tears of joy and thankfulness and found solutions that were manageable. So again, we're not literally talking about Excel. We may not even be talking about money. What we're talking about here, and you can use Excel, you're free to use it. The principle here is that the feeling of hopelessness and overwhelm, the isolated overwhelm, it makes the valley of the shadow of death feel like it's not a valley. This is the whole earth. My whole life is just this dark place. This principle here, that we're calling spreadsheets, is naming exactly what the problems are, spelling it out and writing it out exactly in front of you. What are the negatives, and then what are the positives? Put it all in front of you where they can become real and tangible to you, and they cease being these compounding formless fictions in our imagination. List it all on paper with every good and every bad detail you can think of. Do it with someone you trust if possible. And do you know what often happens? You get a really helpful couple of choices presented to you. You will look at it and very likely be able to say, I can now see that I need to ask help with X, Y, or Z. I need to ask somebody for help with one or more parts of this. Or you're going to look at what you've named and faced very clearly and say, wait a minute, I can do this. I am doing this. I'm going to continue doing this. And as a bonus, you can mix and match. You can do both. You can say, oh, look, I can do this. I am doing this, and I need help with X. Either way, you're back in hope's groove because you know the true extent of your afflictions, which means now you know how much endurance is required, which means you know exactly what this is going to call out of you and the support that you're going to need around you. And that highlighted character is what people of hope look like. We do it for each other as we do it for ourselves. And so as we close, I want to remind you that hope isn't that toxic positivity thing that keeps insisting something good's going to happen, and that's the extent of its value. That's often denial, and it's not going to help us. But the way we choose to love, to forgive, to do today's work for kindness and justice, the reason we do that, the engine running behind that is a deep and ancient wisdom that it's worth it. Despite immediate appearances, we carry a remembering and a forecasting in our souls that can look back, that can look forward, that we can do that for each other and see that this story is a good one despite having several cruddy chapters. And so we continue to hope, so that we can continue to live in the way of love and joy and peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, and self-mastery. May we live in this way for ourselves and for each other. Amen.
If you would like to know more or get connected to Crosspointe, go to crosspointenc.org. If you're in need of care or assistance, go to crosspointe.org/care. And welcome home.